Is that the same for the heater? When it gets too cold, it's too hot.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Oxnard City Council Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting for May 14th, 2024. Madam City Clerk.
Roll call. Member Valenzuela,
Present.
Member Zaragoza,
Here?
Chair Perrello.
Here.
The agenda for this meeting was posted on the City Hall Bulletin Board on May 8th, 2024.
And Mr. Grant Dunn, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Please rise, right hand over heart. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is public comments for items not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on this item?
Chair Perrello, there's no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you very much, Madam Assistant City Clerk. The next item, consent agenda. Number 1, the City Clerk Department, approval of the minutes. Recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee approve the minutes for April 23rd, 2024 regular meeting as presented. My fellow committee members, do you have any concerns, questions, changes, recommendations? And are there any public comments on this item?
Chair Perrello, there's no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
What is the recommendation?
Move approval.
Second.
Please vote.
Thank you. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Next item under reports, D1, Public Works Department. Agreement for the supply and delivery of chemicals to water, wastewater, and recycled water facilities. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute the following agreements for the supply and delivery of chemicals to water, wastewater, and recycled water facilities, each with the initial agreement term ending June 30th, 2025, after which each agreement may be extended for 4 additional one-year terms with a fully extended final term ending June 30th, 2029. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 7 parts to this agreement. I'll read each one. We can take them together or individually, whatever you would like to do. Number 1, Agreement 325-00003 for JCI Jones Chemicals Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $4,525,000 for the supply and delivery of sodium hypochlorite and sodium bisulfite. Number 2, Agreement 325-00004 with North Star Chemical in the amount not to exceed $2,925,000 for the supply and delivery of citric acid, sulfuric acid, and sodium hydroxide. Number 3, Agreement 325-00005 with Penco Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $7,100,000 for the supply and delivery of ferric chloride and ferrous chloride. Number 4, Agreement 325-00008 with King Lee Chemical Company in the amount not to exceed $1,900,000 for the supply and delivery of antiscalant. Number 5, Agreement 325-0009 with Aqua Plus Chemicals LLC in the amount not to exceed $900,000 for the supply and delivery of hydrogen peroxide. Number 6, Agreement 325-00010 with Hill Brothers Chemical Company in the amount not to exceed $150,000 for the supply and delivery of aqueous ammonia. And number 7, Agreement 325-00011 with Unilever Solutions USA Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $2,300,000 for the supply and delivery of sodium hydroxide and liquid lime. Due to the decision by the voters in the city, Measure M will not have any presentation, but there was a pre-recorded video. Well done. And Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on this item?
Chair Perrello, there's no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you very much. Do my board members have any questions or concerns?
Yep.
Mr. Tim Beeman coming to the podium.
I think this is probably a health and safety issue, something that has to be done, and those are mandated items or required items to have all those chemicals, for the wastewater, and I'm sure we have to, otherwise we won't be buying them, right? Correct.
Yes, Committee Chair Perrello, fellow committee members, my name is Tim Beeman, Interim Assistant Director of Public Works. And so the chemicals that we have in front of you do go for water, wastewater, and recycled water, and they all kind of serve a different purpose, obviously. So with wastewater, we're looking more at flocculation, separating solids from the liquids. We also use chemicals for odor control and some of our pre-treatment.
And I think that was one good thing about it. Odor control is really important because I know the neighbors are complained quite a bit in the past. I haven't heard any more complaints, but I think that's important that we control that odor there, which I think is important. So Pinco and King and Hill and all those individuals, agencies or companies provide the specific type of chemical that we need.
That's correct. And so things like anti-scalant would be for our membrane processes. And then at water and recycled water, we also have disinfection for our distribution system.
And this is, what was it, for 5 years? I can't recall what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, 5 years. That's all, Mr. Chair.
No comments, but thank you for staff for, ensuring health and safety for our community. Thank you.
One specific question. Can you please inform for the public what an anti-scalant is?
Yeah, so what happens with our groundwater that has high, what we call total dissolved solids, when that gets pushed through the membrane, that will scale, so similar to hard water on a faucet over time. And so that anti-scalant's added so it doesn't scale on the membranes and reduce the recovery of the clear water through the membrane.
And if we build up scalant on the membranes, what are we putting at risk money-wise with respect to what a membrane costs?
It reduces to the life of the membranes, and it's gone up a fair amount, but I believe the last time we replaced an entire train, it was around $600,000.
Okay, so this is very important stuff. The only other question I have, these are from my long time ago, some chemistry classes. Some of this stuff is very caustic, very temperamental, very dangerous to handle. What do we do to make sure that we're handling this stuff correctly?
So we take a number of measures, and some of the filling stations, so they have double containment, so where the trucks actually pull in, there'll be a berm around, so if there is a spill, it's captured with an enclosed area. So most of our tanks are double walled, so it's double containment on a wall of the tank itself, and then they're also held into a containment area, typically concrete all the way around, and that concrete is sized for the entire volume of the tank plus, 10%, 15%, whatever it was that designed to. So that provides us some freeboard, so if there was a spill, it is fully contained. Our staff also takes safety measures and wear protective equipment whenever filling the tanks.
And I just want, and the staff goes through training to make sure that they're certified with all the handling of the stuff. Just excellent explanation. Just for those that may not understand, what's a double wall tank?
So a double walled tank is actually the inner wall that holds the liquid itself, and then there's a gap in between, and then the second wall. So it's a tank within a tank.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, Madam Clerk, we have no public comments again.
Chair Perrello, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Tim, so this is for water, wastewater, and recycled water facilities. Are we talking about the 3rd Street, the water facilities, recycled,
Yes.
and also Perkins Road? Or?
Yes, so if you're going over the bridge at 3rd Street and you see our staff running around in red suits,
Yeah.
they're filling up the equipment, or the tanks.
That facility is fascinating. It's just really, I've been there, I haven't been there for quite a while, but okay, so that, the 3rd Street and Perkins Road.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
I was going to say I move the recommended action.
Okay, I'll second that. Please go ahead and vote.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I'd just like to take a minute to say, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this and you got some kids and they don't know what they want to do, these businesses handling water, wastewater, recycled water, these are very good jobs, very good jobs. And, kids will say, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. They might be interested to find out just what those jobs involve and what compensation for a job like that is. Working for the city of Oxnard is a pretty good job. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, number 2, Public Works Department. Wastewater Division General Update Presentation. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee receive and file a Wastewater Division General Update Presentation. Again, due to Measure M, there is no presentation on site, but if we have questions, we have staff here to answer the questions. First off, Madam Clerk, are there any public speakers on this? No.
Chair Perrello, there's no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
I will share with my fellow members on this committee, there were several years ago when there were tons of questions about public works. Our outfit's running so smoothly, people have a lot more trust now than they did. Go ahead. Do any board members have any comments or concerns?
So we're having a presentation, Tim, is that?
There's not.
None?
There's no presentation.
No, because of the
Measure M.
Okay. I think that the presentation was great because I think it's really, really important. Again, I always go to health and safety issues. I think it's really important, and also the control for odor. I think you mentioned that it's really important with the what you're doing there now, and also I think you mentioned something about sea level rise potential. What can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So there was a couple of things that I brought up particularly in the presentation. And so there is additional odor control going in at Headworks. It's a longstanding issue. As I said in the presentation, we're not getting nearly as many calls as we used to. So we're just taking those extra measures. That'll also help clear up some of the corrosion that we're seeing in concrete. With the sea level rise, that is in particular with our electrical building that was being constructed. We showed some time-lapse videos of it going up. And so the final grade, it'll sit about 4 feet above the existing grade, and that's to accommodate any sea level rise or flooding that we may see in the future.
Because in the past, I've heard that if we do have sea level rise, looking at about 3 feet or so, so we're looking at about 4 foot or more too.
So that one's a little bit higher. There are some other parts of the plant where other projects that we're doing now, and it's closer to about 1 foot. But because of the nature of the electrical building, we took some extra
Right.
precautions.
And also you talked about the security of the plant, which I think is extremely important, and of course, the repair of the outfall pipe, which is, can you show more about the security and then the outfall?
Sure. So the security measures that we're taking is we originally had chain link fence, and the city's done a good job about cleaning up Perkins Road. And so we haven't had nearly as many issues as we had in the past. But it is just taller fence with some screens, and then on the front along Perkins Road, it is wrought iron to prevent climbing over. We also are getting all new gates, video camera systems, lights, additional lighting. We've cleared out around the fences. So we've taken all of those measures. Now for the outfall, every year we have to do an annual inspection of the outfall. That includes a diver that goes all the way out from the beach to the end of the outfall, what we call diffusers. And over the last 3 years, we've noticed some slight cracking in the outfall. Now, this is very far out near the diffusers. And through those videos, we can also see that the rock ballast that sits on both sides of the outfall has moved away. So it's even though it's rock and it's down under the ocean, that constant current will slowly move things and drifts with sand and everything else. And so a couple weeks ago, we completed a undersea or underwater survey that shows the outfall, the ballast, and where it's spreading. And we are then working on a design, really a performance-based specification that will go out to bid to replace the ballast around the outfall, secure it, and then repair those cracks that we found. Again, we're pretty small what we're seeing, but we're just taking those mediation measures because if we don't do it now, it'll just get progressively worse.
And I understand that the fish on the outfall are really great fish, huh? I wonder why. And lastly, I think you're working also on lift stations, right?
Yes, that's correct. So we have 3 lift stations currently in construction rehabilitation, 1, 2, and 30. They're all kind of in the harbor area. They all have a shared force main. We are adding a force main to lift station 1. Currently, it goes into Channel Islands Beach Community Services District, and we are rerouting it to be within the shared force main of the other 2. Rehab includes coating, new pumps, new mechanical equipment, new electrical equipment, and because of our proximity to the ocean and the corrosive nature of the sea air, the electrical boxes have corroded, so we're replacing everything with stainless steel and upgrading to prolong the life of all the lift stations.
Mr. Chair, one quick question. So we service the Channel Islands, that's county, right?
Yes.
So do we have a contract with the county for, or with the Channel Islands District?
We have agreements in place, and we do have a very good working relationship with them. So anything we do in terms of operations and coordination, we meet on site, we go over everything. They have their design.
Because they work with the base too, my understanding, right? So,
Yes.
Yeah, it's a Channel Islands Beach Community Service District's not necessarily the county that's providing that service, even though it's in the county's unincorporated area.
even though they're in the county, but they're a separate agency, yeah, okay.
Channel Islands Beach Community Service District?
Channel Beach, yeah.
That's correct. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
Thank you, sir.
Number one, the presentation that you had, I hope the public takes a look at it. The other thing is the people that have done the photography and the stuff for these presentations, the ability to get really good, important, detailed photographs with, I believe it's with drones they're doing it. It's tremendous. And I hope the public takes a look at it, what we're doing. Because I know for years, I would drive down that street, Perkins, go to the end, make the loop, look around. I would have no idea what's going on in the sewer plant. There's a tremendous amount of money going in there to get it up where it belongs, to take care of our sewage for this city and those that we supply service for, so that we don't harm anybody else or the environment. Tremendous work. A couple of questions about the pipe, the outflow. Can you just explain what the outflow pipe is, where it goes, how long it goes? That's one question. Number two, there was an issue down south where an oil line was damaged by a ship dragging an anchor. Is there a possibility an anchor could tank up with our outflow line? Number three, do we ever have to go in and clean the inside of the pipeline?
So our outfall line starts at the wastewater treatment plant, and then it turns south on Perkins and hits the sand, does a dog leg, and goes about a mile out in the ocean. We have monitored when we have the survey boats out there to be able to visually see the end of where the end of our pipeline is with the boat, on the surface. And what we've witnessed is that the container ships that are going by are well beyond our pipeline. So that was something that we considered and part of what we did through our secondary inspections, but we found no indication that an anchor was dragged over the line. The pipeline itself sits outside of the sand, and so if an anchor did hit it, we would clearly see it. I mean, it would likely take out a section of the pipe. And the last question about cleaning the pipeline, we actually don't have to, though the secondary treated water that comes out of our treatment plant is disinfected, and then we remove the chlorine prior to releasing it out into the ocean, and it's very clean water for the secondary standards. We're within our MPDS permit, and what comes out of that pipe doesn't result in any growth or anything like that.
There's no issues with like scalings and stuff like, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Any further questions, or did anybody call in? Apparently not. Is there a recommendation?
Move approval.
I'll second it. Please vote.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Jim.
The next item, number 3, Public Works Department, Senate Bill SB1, Local Streets and Road Maintenance and Rehabilitation Account, abbreviation RMRA, project list for fiscal year 2024-25. The recommendation, that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution to, two parts. Part 1, adopt the fiscal year 24-25 project list for Senate Bill 1, SB 1, proposed projects that will be funded in part or solely with road maintenance and rehabilitation account revenues. And number 2, authorize the city manager to take whatever actions are necessary and appropriate to carry out the purpose and intention of the resolution. Again, due to Measure M, there's no presentation, but we do have staff here if public has questions or management has, board members have questions. Madam Clerk, are there any public questions? No?
Chair Perrella, there's no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Yeah,
Hello, Mr. Kessler. What questions do we have?
yeah, Mr. Morgan, Kesslers, I understand that the funds from SB 1 are based on population, number 1, and number 2, you know, we're looking at $5.1 million for SB 1.
Yes, that's correct.
And the question is, SB 1 can be used for arterials or residential?
Well, it could be used for both arterial and residential, and in this case, that's the plan that we're presenting to you, is the streets in our list that we're asking you to approve include both arterial and residential.
And residential. Does it include alleys? I can't remember.
I'm sorry?
Alleys, does it?
It does not.
So it includes anything that is accepted into the city's right-of-way. So if a street and/or alley has been accepted into the city's right-of-way, then it's eligible. We have in the past focused in on residential and arterial streets because they're very easily identifiable as accepted into the city's right-of-way system.
And Morgan, wasn't there one time, or there was some talk about getting rid of SB 1?
I'm not aware of that.
Yes.
Which would be detrimental to all of
That
us.
is correct. So trying to remember, I think this is the 7th year for SB 1, if I recall correctly. So when it first came out, there was a opposition after it got approved. I think it went back on the ballot measure and got reapproved. So it's here to stay for a while at least.
Good, because I think it's a good program, because we need it, you know. Yeah, thank you for them. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The only question I would have, we've pretty much identified specific areas where we will be spending these resources. Can you go over that roughly, the general neighborhoods that would benefit from this?
Yeah, just generally, and this map is also included in your council report.
Yeah, and to the credit to putting this staff report together, every street that's potential, the map, everything, the whole enchilada, the whole 9 yards is in here. But for those that don't take the time to read it or possibly just watching, and I hope somebody's watching, the identification of some of the neighborhoods that will benefit from this, and people wonder why takes a long time to do things. Morgan, if you just kind of point out the neighborhoods, it looks like.
Yeah, certainly. You know, having been here just about 5 months, I'm probably not as, you know, I don't have the neighborhoods as keyed in with the streets as I perhaps should have, but I could certainly go over the extents of the streets. Some of the arterials we're talking about is West and East Gonzales Road, from about North Victoria to North Rice. We're also talking about a portion of North Oxnard Boulevard, north of East Gonzales Road. And then moving a little bit to the east, we have North Ventura Road from about West Vineyard Avenue to 5th Street. And we have a segment of 5th Street as well, from about North Ventura to North Oxnard Boulevard. We also have a number of residential areas that we're proposing. And those are indicated in kind of a pinkish color on the map. And we have some what we consider being done under our neighborhood street resurfacing program. We have the Bartolo Square South neighborhood, Kamala Park neighborhood,
Bingo.
quite a bit of La Colonia neighborhood and the arterials that I mentioned, just generally speaking.
And just to point out, ladies and gentlemen, there is a tremendous map available with the complete listing of the streets out and everything else that would be taken care of. Public Works Director, would you like to?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Chair, just a little context for this. So this is an annual requirement from the state, so this is kind of a routine process. I wanted to make sure we're couching this correctly. In order for us to be able to spend RMRA funds on a street, we have to identify those street segments that could be spent, this money could be spent on. So I don't want anybody to feel like all the streets that Mr. Kessler just listed off will actually be, have RMRA funds.
Not for $5 million.
Right, not for $5 million. As you recall, we talked about our phase one, or our next phase for our pavement management plan is, over $20 million worth of street improvements. And so the state requires us to identify streets that could get RMRA funds so that we can make sure that they're eligible, but not necessarily all these streets will get RMRA. Depending on how the operating budget and the CIP goes, it could get Measure O, it could get general fund, it could get other gas tax, which is HUTA gas tax or HUTA. So again, this is a routine process by which we have to submit this information to the state to make these street segments eligible for RMRA. Again, I don't want anybody to feel like these streets are only going to get RMRA funds.
Yeah.
Can I ask Michael or Kessler, that list that we are compiling this time, do we compile it again next year?
Correct. So
Add to
you'll,
it?
sorry, Mr. Mayor, but yes, that's correct. So you'll see street segments on this list that are actually actively in construction. So Gonzales is on that list. So again, the idea here is to make sure those streets continue to be or will be eligible for RMRA either
Keep it going.
previous year or next year. So this is a continuous list that we have to update. Now, when we do report to the state, because we have this reporting requirement, and then we have an annual end-of-year reporting requirement, then we specifically state which street segments were actually used.
Great.
I would just like to add, as the Public Works Director mentioned, there's different pools of money. And it's very similar to when you teach a kid, if you pick up 5 pennies, you get a nickel. If you pick up 20 nickels, you get a buck. 10 dimes is a buck. Eventually, the money adds up. It isn't just one big slug of money that comes in. It's a hard work of all the people involved in working for the city of Oxnard that collectively cobbled together the funds needed to do what needs to be done for the public. I appreciate this report. And again, any public comment before we take action? Nope? Okay.
Chair Perrello, there's no public speakers.
Thank you. If it's okay with the board, I'll make the recommendation to approve this item.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda, number 4. The Public Works Department, subject agreement 325-00006 with California Wood Recycling Incorporated, doing business as Agramon, for organic waste recycling services at Agramon facilities. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee, recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with California Wood Recycling, doing business as Agramon, in the amount not to exceed $9 million for an initial 3-year term from July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2027, with the option of 2 consecutive 1-year period extensions that shall not exceed a total of 5 years for the final term ending June 30th, 2029, in order to provide organic waste recycling services and mulch products for the city of Oxnard at permitted Agramon facilities. Again, due to Measure M, there's no presentation, but we have staff to respond to any questions if we have from the public or the board. Madam Clerk, are there any public? No.
Chair Perrello, there's no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Gentlemen and ladies, I want you to know the committee is very happy that you're here to answer questions if they come up. Thank you very much. My board members, do you have any questions or concerns?
A couple of questions. The 9 million includes the, potentially the 5 years, Brian? All the way up to the 5 years, or?
Good evening, Chair, Mayor, committee members. Brian Yanes, Assistant Public Works Director. Yes, that is correct. If we go the full 5 years, it'll be $9 million is the budget.
And my understanding, according to your presentation, that some of the material goes to Santa Paula and the other material goes to Simi Valley. The garbage goes to Simi Valley and the green waste to Santa Paula, or vice versa?
So our garbage does go to Simi Valley, which is not part of this contract. This contract is strictly green waste,
Okay.
wood waste, food waste, construction demolition. This is where we utilize Agriman, who has a facility in Santa Paula, as well as a facility on the Simi Valley landfill, which is operated by Waste Management. They're a partner there with Waste Management.
Okay, okay. And Mr. Camarillo still runs that, Agriman?
Yes, him and E.J.
Harrison.
E.J. Harrison are partners on it.
And what was it, let me see that I had, oh, apparently there was an RFP that went out, or RFB, I think is what they called it. And Agriman was the lowest bidder again,
Yes, and we've been doing business with Agriman
for years.
since 1996, approximately 28 years.
Yeah, yeah. I know, well, they do good work, yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. In full disclosure, I first got involved with the city of Oxnard due to issues that were going on in California wood recycling at the Montalvo Center. I got to learn one hell of a lot about the green waste and what was going on in the city of Oxnard, full disclosure. I do appreciate the fact that this business does this. I believe it's majority owned by Harrison Industries, a company that does a lot of business and a lot of good things for the community. But again, it's a private business. Can you give us an update? At one time, there was the thought that they were going to open up a food waste recycling facility in Oxnard. I know that's not here, but can we?
Arnold Road.
Okay, not agendized, okay, all
Okay.
right. Thank you very much on it. With respect to the food waste, when the food waste is recycling, can we give a somewhat thumbnail to the public? What are they doing with it?
Sure. I'm going to have Robert Serrato, one of our ER managers, talk about the process of our food waste when it comes into the MRF, what we do with it, where we take it, and then what is processed through Agriman's processes, and then the end result, what comes out of that. So,
Okay.
anyways.
And before you start speaking, Mr. Yanis, if any members of the public ever wanted to see how this process works, do we offer tours of how this would work out?
Well, absolutely. We offer tours at our facility at 111 South Del Norte Boulevard. How we get the products from our residents, separate the food waste. That's the baggies that are in our green waste organics cart. We hand separate that at the moment, and then we empty those bags out, put them in a truck, and ship them off to Agriman in Santa Paula.
And the only reason that I bring that up, Mr. Yanis, is some residents, they need to realize there are other people that are handling the stuff. So when they put it in a can or in a sealed bag, do what you're supposed to do. There's other people that are in this process to make our city better.
Exactly, and we continue to educate our customers and our residents on how to recycle organics, and hopefully we'll get better. Our numbers continue to grow.
I can tell you, one of the competitors we have, Harrison, always reports Nan Drake at the representative, speaks at the VRSD. According to one of our competitors, Oxnard's doing extremely well in the recycling business. Go ahead, please.
Yes, so we actually have received interest from residents for free compost and mulch, and this agreement would let us give that to our residents. We would establish a coupon program, and that's one of the benefits of having Agriman in our city. Other cities throughout California use Agriman to meet their 1383 compliance, but we actually have them in the city, so residents have the option of picking up their mulch or compost for free at one of Agriman's facilities.
Wow. Is there, a limit to the, or is that yet to be determined, how much a resident can get?
I think,
Because then the reason I ask that is, all of a sudden, I'm Bert's Commercial Landscaping, and I come in and I want 12 tons. Is there limits?
I believe there's a 1 yard limit, and we'll establish, we're gonna establish a program before we start it to ensure, to be able to confirm you're an Oxnard resident, so maybe using utility bills, and we're gonna keep track, because we have to keep track of what we're getting for SB 1383, so we can report it at the end of the year.
Thank you, thank you. Any further questions?
Just question, I hope maybe I can answer a question. Because now we're using the green waste to get rid of garbage, so has that reduced the amount of material that goes to the garbage disposal into the wastewater plant?
Into the sewer plant?
Into the sewer plant. That was one of the biggest ideas before, right, I think? Besides, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I don't think we have any definable measurements of that, but certainly we can bring something back if there is a definable measurement for that.
I guess, just probably just to get an idea if it is working, and number two, I think we also have to do X amount of tons of garbage, right? Or food waste.
Food waste, yeah, we have to increase our diversion and meet the goals that were set by 1383.
That's one of the reasons I asked that, but, okay, thank you. But that would be kind of interesting to find out if it is working, and.
So I'm not sure I would put that as working. I would say that the ER division is able to track how much organics waste we are collecting, which is a measurement of the program, rather than whether or not it went down the drain before. So,
Okay.
I can talk to the wastewater staff to see if there's any sort of measurable way of doing that. But I would think that our opportunity to identify whether or not this program is working is our ability to track how many tons of organic waste that we have now collected versus previous years. And I think that's data that we have, maybe not necessarily here at hand, but that's data that we have and can bring back to the committee by saying, hey, and 2 years ago, we had X number of tons.
That's more important. Yeah, I don't need to know about it. Okay, thank you.
But I'll check to see if there's a measurable opportunity with the wastewater team.
Thank you.
So, excuse me, so for example, right now, we're averaging about 22,000 tons of green waste or inbound organics at the MRF, and then we divert approximately 17,400 of that. And 13,000 of it is yard waste, 3,000 is wood waste, and then 1,400 tons is food waste. So those are the numbers kind of in the last couple of years.
That's very significant.
So
yeah.
They need to be a little higher for our size of our community, but I think I know all other communities are struggling with the food waste organics, but more education, teaching our residents and customers how to recycle is what staff is doing in environmental resources.
So, Mr. Chair, so we can get away from those penalties, which I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I even say a little more than that. If you remember during our ER rate conversation, one of the things that allows us to keep our rates from really inflating is the fact that we need to have clean streams of waste. And so the more that our customers do that source control at their location, the less that we have to sort at the MRF, the less staffing. So that's an opportunity for us to keep our costs as low as possible when we have, as best as possible, the clean streams of the 3 different clean streams of waste.
And that's good information for the public to hear then. Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I don't have any further questions. Then by chance, has anybody called in for a question?
No, Chair Perello.
Okay, what is the recommendation of the staff?
Move approval.
Second.
Please vote. Thank you very much, all involved, for the report. Thank you. And I would like to take a tour.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. Yep. Because I can tell you, I can tell you when the mayor asked this question, I'm thinking, how are we going to check that? And I'm thinking the first thing that came to mind was, is the call for a plumber to route out a drain going down, the numbers of calls for service. Maybe people are recycling the stuff instead of putting it through the garbage disposal. I don't know.
Poor plumbers, yeah.
Next item on the agenda. Number 5, Public Works Department again, subject, annual purchase order for Ascent Wire Dash Tie to supply and deliver bale wire for the Del Norte Regional Recycling and Transfer Station. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the purchasing agent to execute annual purchase orders with Ascent Wire Tie in the amount not to exceed $375,000 for an initial one-year term from July 1, 24 to June 30th, 25, with an option to extend the term for 2 consecutive one-year periods for a final term ending June 30th, 2027, for the supply and delivery of bale wire for baling recyclable materials. Again, Measure M, there is no presentation. We have staff to answer questions if the public or the committee has questions. Madam Clerk, are there any public questions?
Chair Perrello, there's no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
And before my board members, I would just like to pine in on this one here. It's been mentioned many times how the city of Oxnard is doing a tremendous job of recycling and clean waste, which brings higher value. We can sell it we sell it, number one, have no problem selling it. Number two, it brings higher price for the city. And number three, one of the things is it's easier to handle and stays together. And a lot of that has to do with the quality of wire that ties it together and how well and strong the wire is. This is a significant item. If any of you have ever been around a bundle of anything that the wire broke and it all comes apart, you haven't lived till you've been around something like that, especially if they're stacked up several high. Any questions?
No, that's a lot of wire. But no, but I understand that, this company is probably the most responsible company, because you went out for bids and they continue to, but they sole source, and I can't remember if I said that, Brian, if they are sole source for that wire.
No, this was a RFP that went out. We did get 2 vendors that bid on this, and this was the lowest responsive bidder.
Yeah, and it's needed anyway, so 3 years. I think it's good, that's all I am.
I just want to say I took a tour of the facility earlier this year, and I saw that bale wire in action. So yes, very necessary. Thank you.
I've already made my comments.
Need a motion?
This is very necessary, good deal. We have to provide clean recyclables, but they got to be in a situation where whatever we send out, the other side receives exactly, not broken bales and everything else. And we do a good job of doing that. Thank you.
Move the recommend action.
I'll second that. Please vote.
Motion carries 3-0.
Next item, Public Works Department, subject Professional Services Agreement 325-00012 with Pavement Engineering Incorporated for city's pavement management systems and update. Recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Pavement Engineering Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $425,000 for an initial one-year term from July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, with the option for 3 consecutive one-year period extensions that will not exceed a total of 4 years, for a total term ending June 30th, 2028, for the city's pavement management system update professional services. Again, due to Measure M, there is no presentation, but we have staff to answer questions if any members of the public have called in. Have any called in?
Chair Perrello, there's no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you. Committee members have any questions?
Morgan, again, I'm not sure if I have this one mixed up with another one, but my understanding that the PCI is checked on for the arterials once a year in streets, and residential streets, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, the arterials are done every year. just
They have to be.
because of their-
Is that a
the
mandate?
volume it's not a mandate, but it's what.
Highly used.
It's our practice because it, the arterials are just, you know, what they're described as arterials. They have a much higher traffic volume per year than residential streets and therefore require more of an inspection interval.
One of the things that you mentioned in your report was that the streets that are under 70 PCI are not as good, of course. I mean, it's silly to even say that. But that potentially, you know, and I want to combine that with the suit that we have. Because of the suit that we have, we're about 67, 68 now, PCI, and we're looking for 70. That lawsuit is really detrimental to what we're doing. The lawsuit that we have for the issue of bond issuance. And even if we have the study and we're still in the lawsuit, what effect do we have as far as funding is concerned or just as this professional PEI just going to give us information that we work from there? Am I off?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're off.
okay.
It's not a topic.
Okay, my apologies. I think it's a good report. And I think it's important that we do that PCI, you know. Go ahead.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, so obviously this is a program and a consultant services that allows us to understand those things that you're
Right.
talking about. So the idea here is to have these consultant services on board to do the inspections, put the information into the program, and to be able to analyze and bring back to the committee and council the things that you're talking about. So this is an important piece of information, or important contract to have, because it leads to much bigger conversations and much bigger programming and planning for those capital projects.
And I think it helps us too, because people complain about our PCI, and if we have the data to actually come back and say, wait a minute, we did a PCI, however, you know, we share what we're talking about. But I think it's good, but you also had a couple of consultants, right? And PEI was the best, most qualified consultant.
Yeah, we received a number of proposals, and PEI wound up being the best when you consider the services they offered for the price.
That's all I have, sir.
Go along the same lines as the questions the mayor was asking. I appreciate the city attorney giving us a little caution. I look at this as a necessity. You get to a certain age and you should have a physical every so often. If we didn't do this on a regular basis, there would be one big surprise when we came and did a report and found out, oh my God, how did this happen? This is preventive maintenance, and it's the smarts, using your brain, hiring a consultant, knows what he's doing, making sure you got the right guy, and he gives you the honest answer. And then you have something to sink your teeth into, making a decision, what do we do with the limited amounts of money that we have due to some knuckleheads suing the city of Oxnard. And that's all I have to say. I support this totally.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to approve unless there's a speaker.
There's no speakers.
Okay, I make the motion to approve this item.
Second?
Please vote.
Motion carries 3-0.
Do the board members have any items for future agendas?
No, sir.
Suggestions?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, with that, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, the staff, very much.
Thank you.